I always believed that if I saved enough, I could buy my way out of chaos. But when my sister, Megan, siphoned $8,000 from my emergency fund to secure her $930,000 dream home, I realized my safety was just her down payment. She banked on me being the silent, dutiful sister she had trained for 30 years. She never expected that I would stop paying for peace and start collecting the receipts. The rain in Seabridge always smelled of salt and wet asphalt, a scent that usually grounded me. I sat at my kitchen island, a slab of cold quartz that I had paid for in full, listening to the relentless drumming against the window pane. It was the first Saturday of the month. For most people, that meant sleeping in or brunch with friends. For me, Lucy Collins, age 32, it meant the ritual. I opened my laptop. The screen glowed with the comforting grid of my budget spreadsheet. I was not a woman who liked surprises. 6 years ago, my life had been a chaotic mess of shared expenses and impulsive decisions made with a man who left me with nothing but a maxed-out credit card and a lease I could not afford alone. Since then, I had rebuilt my life with the precision of a structural engineer. I had an emergency fund. It sat in a high-yield savings account, labeled simply safety. It held $35,000. That money was not for vacations. It was not for clothes. It was my insulation against the world. It was the promise that I would never again be desperate. I took a sip of black coffee and logged into my bank portal. My eyes scanned the balances, checking, savings, the new joint account my mother, Elaine, had bullied me into opening 3 months ago. I paused. The number next to safety looked wrong. I blinked, assuming the screen had not refreshed properly. I hit the reload button. The page flickered and returned with the same figure, $27,000. The air left my lungs in a sharp, painful rush. My coffee mug hit the counter with a loud clatter, spilling a dark puddle onto the quartz, but I did not move to wipe it up. I stared at the screen, my heart hammering a frantic rhythm against my ribs. $8,000 was gone. I clicked on the transaction history, my fingers trembling so hard I misclicked twice. When the list finally loaded, it was not one large, dramatic wire transfer. It was a death by 1,000 cuts, $200, $500, $350. The descriptions were maddeningly vague. Venmo transfer, Cash App transfer, PayPal. They had started 4 weeks ago, just small enough to avoid triggering an immediate fraud alert, but frequent enough to drain a quarter of my safety net in a single billing cycle. I felt a cold prickle of nausea. I knew who it was before I even traced the destination. I closed my eyes, and the conversation with my mother from 3 months ago played in my head like a looped recording. Elaine had sat on my beige sofa, wringing her hands, her eyes wide with that practiced helplessness she wielded like a weapon. "You are the responsible one. Lucy," she had said, her voice trembling just enough to make me feel cruel for hesitating. "We just need a central hub. For your father's medical bills. The copays are getting so complicated. And Megan wants to help, but she is not good with organization like you are. If we put her on the account, she can transfer her share of the money for Dad's prescriptions without you having to chase her." I had fought it. I had told her no. I had told her that Megan and money were a volatile combination. "Oh, stop it," Elaine had snapped, her softness vanishing instantly. "Your sister is turning a leaf. She is looking at houses. She is settling down with Tyler. Why must you always hold her past against her? It is just for convenience. Lucy, do it for your father. Do it for your father." The ultimate trump card. Robert Collins was a quiet man, worn down by decades of navigating the minefield of my mother's emotions and my sister's dramas. I loved him, so I had done it. I had opened the joint account. I had linked it to my main profile so I could monitor the transfers, but I had never given Megan access to my personal savings. That was impossible. I grabbed my phone, my thumb hovering over Megan's name. It was 10 in the morning on a Saturday. She would be awake. She picked up on the 4th ring. The background noise was loud, wind, seagulls, and the distant sound of construction. "Hey, Luce!" Her voice was bright, airy. completely unbothered. I cannot talk long. Tyler and I are doing a drive-by of the house again. You should see the morning light hitting the porch. It is literally screaming my name. Megan, I said, my voice sounding strange and hollow in the empty kitchen. Where is my money? There was a pause on the line, but it was not the silence of confusion. It was the silence of calculation. What are you talking about? She asked, the brightness dimming slightly. $8,000, Megan, taken from my emergency fund, the one you are not supposed to have access to. Oh, that, she said, and the dismissal in her tone sparked a fire in my chest. Calm down. It is just a temporary thing. Temporary? I stood up, gripping the edge of the counter. You stole $8,000 from me. I did not steal it, she huffed, sounding annoyed that I was ruining her morning. I borrowed it. It is an advance. Tyler and I had some unexpected fees come up for the inspections, and the closing costs are higher than we thought, and I covered some family things for Mom last week. So I was tapped out. I moved some funds around. I will put it back as soon as we close. You moved funds around? I repeated, my voice rising. You do not have access to my savings. Megan, you are only on the joint bill account. How did you get into my personal savings? Luce, you are breaking up, she said, her voice feigning difficulty. Look, do not be dramatic. I have to go. The realtor is waving at us. We are so close to getting this house. Do not ruin this for me. She hung up. I stood there, staring at the phone, the silence of my apartment pressing in on me. She had not even denied it. She had framed it as a logistics issue. I dialed my mother immediately. Elaine answered on the first ring. Her voice hushed, likely because she was at the library or the grocery store. Hi, honey, did you talk to your sister? She is so excited. Mom, I said, cutting through the pleasantries. Megan took $8,000 from my savings account. I waited for the gasp. I waited for the outrage. I waited for my mother to say, that is a crime. Lucy, call the police. Instead, she sighed, a long, weary exhalation that signaled I was the one causing the problem. She told me she needed a little bridge. Elaine said quietly, it is just until the house closes. Lucy, you know how tight money is when you are buying property. She was stressed. She did not want to bother you with the details because she knew you would worry. Bother me with the details? I felt like I was speaking a different language. She took my money without asking. That is theft. Mom, it is family. Elaine hissed. We help each other. She is finally getting her life together. She is buying a beautiful home. Lucy, a home. She is trying to build a future. Do you really want to sabotage her over a misunderstanding? The word landed like a slap. Sabotage. I am not the one sabotaging anything, I said, fighting to keep my voice steady. She stole from me. I want it back. Today. She does not have it today, Elaine said, her voice hardening. It is tied up in the escrow or the fees or whatever. If you make a fuss now, the whole deal could fall apart. And then what? She loses the house. She blames you. And the family is torn apart again. Is that what you want? I looked at the puddle of coffee on the counter. It had dripped over the edge and was staining the white cabinet below. I want my money, I said. Just let it go for a few weeks, Elaine urged, her tone shifting back to pleading. Be the bigger person. You have plenty saved. You are always so good with money. You will not even miss it for a month. Please, Lucy, for peace. I hung up the phone before I said something I couldn't take back. I walked to the window and watched the rain lash against the street. My father, Robert, hadn't been mentioned, but I knew where he was. He was likely sitting in his recliner, staring at the television, pretending none of this was happening. His silence was the foundation upon which my mother and sister built their chaos. I was alone. I grabbed my purse and keys. I needed facts. My family operated in the realm of feelings, guilt, and blurred lines. I needed the cold, hard clarity of a bank ledger. The branch was quiet, the air conditioning humming a low, sterile note. I sat across from a representative named Mr. Henderson. He was a young man with a crisp tie and a sympathetic face. I had asked for a full audit of the transfers. I need to know how these were authorized, I said, keeping my hands clasped on my lap to hide the shaking. This person was a signer on a joint account, but these transfers came from my sole ownership savings. Mr. Henderson typed for a moment, the keys clacking rhythmically. He frowned, adjusted his glasses, and typed again. Ms. Collins, he said, turning the screen slightly away from me as if to protect me from the data. I see the transfers here. They were initiated online. Yes, I know. I said, but did she use the internal transfer feature? Because the systems should be separated. He shook his head. No, ma'am. These were not internal transfers between linked accounts in the way you are describing. The user logged in with the primary username and password associated with the account. Your username and password. The room seemed to tilt. Are you sure? I asked. I'm looking at the IP logs and the device ID. He said, the login happened successfully. The two-factor authentication code was sent to, let me see. It was sent to an email address on file. He read out the email address. It was my old personal email, one I barely used anymore but kept as a backup. I sat back, my mind racing. I had never given Megan my password. I was paranoid about security. My passwords were complex strings of random characters. I changed them every 90 days. There was no way she guessed it. And then, a memory surfaced. 4 months ago, my laptop had started lagging. It would freeze up when I tried to open large spreadsheets. I had mentioned it at a Sunday dinner. Tyler can look at it, Megan had offered, her mouth full of pot roast. He is a genius with tech. He fixes computers for his friends all the time. He can save you the Geek Squad fee. I had hesitated. I didn't know Tyler Vance well. He was Megan's latest boyfriend, a man with a charming smile and a job history that changed every time I asked. But he had been eager. Yeah, bring it by, he had said. Probably just some bloatware. I will scrub it for you. I had given him my laptop. I had given him the admin code to install updates. He had kept it for 2 days. When he gave it back, it ran perfectly. I felt a sick, heavy realization settle in my gut. He hadn't just fixed the fan speed. He must have installed a keylogger, or he had simply gone into my saved passwords in the browser and exported them. He had the keys to my entire digital life. Thank you, I said to Mr. Henderson, standing up abruptly. I need to go. Ms. Collins, if this is fraud, we can freeze the account and initiate an investigation, Mr. Henderson said, half rising from his chair. If I froze the account now, the bank would claw back the money, Megan's checks would bounce, the house purchase would explode. My mother's voice echoed in my head. The family is torn apart again. Is that what you want? Not yet, I said, my voice tight. I need to handle this personally first. I walked out into the rain. The anger was no longer a hot flash. It was cooling into something hard and sharp. This wasn't just Megan being irresponsible. This was calculated. This was Tyler and Megan working together to mine me for resources like a vein of coal. I drove home, the windshield wipers slapping a furious rhythm. I did not go to Megan's apartment. I did not go to my parents' house. I went home to my quartz countertop and my spreadsheet. I sat down and drafted a document. It was not emotional. It was a repayment agreement. I, Megan Collins, acknowledge the debt of $8,000 to Lucy Collins. I agreed to a repayment schedule of $500 per month beginning immediately. It was generous. It was pathetic. Really. It was me trying to put a bandage on a bullet wound because I was too afraid to perform surgery. I sent the document to Megan via email and text. Then I called her again. She sent me to voicemail. I texted her. I know Tyler accessed my account credentials when he fixed my laptop. I know you logged in as me. That is identity theft. Megan, sign the repayment plan I just emailed you, and we can handle this within the family. Ignore me, and I go to the police. I stared at the phone, waiting. 10 minutes passed, then 20, then my phone buzzed. It was a notification from the extended family group chat, a digital space occupied by my parents, my aunts, 3 cousins, and Megan. Megan had sent a message. Hey family, just asking for some prayers today. I am under so much stress with the house, and dealing with some really hurtful toxicity from people who claim to support me. It is sad when money becomes more important than sisterhood. I am trying to stay positive, but it is hard when someone is spiraling and obsessing over every little penny. Love you all. My jaw dropped. The audacity was breathtaking. She had not only ignored my olive branch, she had set the narrative on fire. A moment later, my Aunt Linda replied, "Stay strong, honey. The devil works hard when you are about to receive a blessing." Then my cousin Sarah, "Ignore the haters, Megs. You deserve this house." She was painting me as the villain. She was preempting my story. If I spoke up now, I would just look like the bitter, money-obsessed spinster sister trying to ruin Cinderella's ball. I looked at the text message I had sent her, the threat of the police. She had called my bluff. She knew I wouldn't do it. She knew I was Lucy the peacekeeper, Lucy the doormat. My mother called. I let it ring. My father sent a text. "Your mother is very upset. Please just work it out with your sister." I put the phone down on the counter. The silence in my apartment felt different now. It wasn't peaceful. It was heavy. It was the silence of a room where a crime had been committed. I realized then that arguing was useless. Words meant nothing to Megan. Promises were just sounds she made to get what she wanted. If I wanted my life back, if I wanted respect, I had to stop acting like a sister. I had to start acting like a stranger. I walked to my bookshelf and pulled out a fresh notebook. I sat down at the table. Step 1. Secure the perimeter. I opened my laptop, the compromised machine, and stared at it. I couldn't trust it. I pulled out my phone and used the data connection, avoiding the home Wi-Fi just in case Tyler had done something to the router too. I changed my bank password. I changed my email password. I enabled hardware key two-factor authentication. I looked at the bank activity again. I took screenshots of every transfer. I printed them out. I started a timeline in the notebook. Date: November 15th. Event: Tyler takes possession of laptop. Date: December 1st. Event: first unauthorized transfer, $200. Date: January 5th. Event: $8,000 threshold crossed. I worked for hours. The sun went down, and the apartment filled with shadows. But I didn't turn on the lights. I sat in the glow of the screen, documenting the betrayal. I felt a strange detachment. The hurt was there, buried deep. But on the surface, I was cold. Around 9 in the evening, my phone chimed with an email notification. I glanced at it, expecting another lecture from my mother or a taunt from Megan. It was an automated message. Subject: Thank you for your document upload. Harborgate Lending. I frowned. I hadn't uploaded any documents. I didn't even know who Harborgate Lending was. I opened the email. Dear Lucy Collins, this email is to confirm that we have successfully received the following documents for your file. Proof of funds. Chase Bank Statement, ending in 4492, gift letter affidavit. Your loan processor will review these shortly. If you have any questions regarding your application as non-occupant co-borrower, please contact us. I stared at the words non-occupant co-borrower. The world stopped. They hadn't just stolen my cash. They hadn't just used my money for a down payment. Megan was putting my name on the mortgage. She was buying a $930,000 house, and she was dragging me onto the hook for the debt without me even being in the room. I looked at the ending number of the bank account listed, 4492. That was my emergency fund. I read the line again. Gift letter, affidavit. I hadn't signed a gift letter. I hadn't gifted anyone anything. My hands were no longer shaking. A cold calm washed over me. This wasn't a family dispute anymore. This was a war. I picked up my pen and wrote a new entry in my notebook. Date: today. Event: war declared. I closed the laptop. I did not call Megan. I did not call my mother. I sat in the dark, listening to the rain, and for the first time in my life, I decided that peace was too expensive. I was done paying. It was time to collect. The Harborgate Lending website looked cheap. That was my first thought as I stared at the glowing blue banner on my laptop screen Monday morning. It featured a stock photo of a smiling family, a golden retriever, 2 blonde children, Parents who looked like they had never worried about an overdraft fee in their lives. Underneath the photo, in bold sans serif font, was the slogan, "We open doors when others close them." I sat in my cubicle at Ridgeway Systems, ignoring the pile of project status reports on my desk. My heart was doing that slow, heavy thudding thing again, the kind that made my fingertips numb. I had traced the URL from the automated email I received Saturday night. I dialed the number listed under Contact Us. Harborgate Lending. "This is Brad." A voice answered. He sounded young, rushed, and like he was chewing gum. "Hi," I said, keeping my voice level. "My name is Lucy Collins. I received an email regarding a document upload for a mortgage application, but I did not upload anything. I wanted to clear up the confusion." "Oh, sure. Let me pull you up," Brad said. "Collins? Collins. Okay, here we are. The property on Elm Street in Seabridge? Closing on the 15th? The address hit me like a physical blow. Elm Street. That was the expensive district. The historic district. "Yes," I said, forcing the word out. "That is the one. Looks like everything is moving along." "Ms. Collins," Brad said cheerfully, "we got the bank statements you sent over Saturday. We are just waiting on the final employment verification, but the pre-approval is solid. You and your sister make a great team on paper. Her credit is a little thin, but yours balances it out perfectly." I gripped the phone so hard the plastic creaked. "I am on the loan?" I asked. Brad laughed. A short, dismissive sound. "Well, yeah. You are the non-occupant co-borrower. We could not have gotten the debt-to-income ratio to work without you. Is there a problem? You sound surprised." I closed my eyes. Non-occupant co-borrower. It sounded so technical, so sterile. In reality, it meant I was the financial mule. Megan was buying a $930,000 home, and I was the one guaranteeing she would pay for it. If she defaulted, the bank would not just take the house. They would come for me. They would garnish my wages. They would drain my savings. They would ruin the credit score I had spent 10 years perfecting. I wanted to confirm the terms. I lied. My throat felt dry. "Can you send me the full file? I want to review what was submitted." "I can shoot you the summary," Brad said, "but you should have copies of everything you signed." "Right," I said. "Just send it." I hung up. I did not scream. I did not cry. I felt a cold, vibrating rage that was entirely new to me. It was sharper than the hurt I had felt on Saturday. Saturday was about theft. This was about slavery. They were binding my future to Megan's whims without my consent. I left work early. I told my boss I had a family emergency. It was the truth. My family was the emergency. I drove straight to Megan's apartment complex. It was a mid-range place, beige stucco, the kind of place you lived in before you bought the dream home. Her car was there. I walked up the stairs, my heels clicking loudly on the concrete. I pounded on the door. Megan opened it wearing yoga pants and an oversized t-shirt that said Bride Tribe. She looked annoyed until she saw my face. Then, for a split second, she looked scared. But Megan was a master of the pivot. She smoothed her expression into one of weary patience. "Lucy," she sighed, "I am packing. I do not have time for a lecture about the $8,000. I told you, I will pay you back." I pushed past her into the living room. It was a disaster of cardboard boxes and bubble wrap. Tyler was nowhere to be seen. "I am not here about the $8,000, I said, turning to face her. "I am here about the $930,000. Megan froze. She was holding a stack of plates. She set them down on a box, very carefully. "I do not know what you're talking about. I called Harborgate Lending," I said, my voice trembling with the effort to keep it low. "I spoke to Brad. He told me I am the non-occupant co-borrower on your mortgage." Megan rolled her eyes. It was such a juvenile reaction that I almost laughed. "Oh, that," she said, waving a hand as if swatting away a fly. "That is just a formality. Mom said it was the best way to handle it." "Mom said?" I repeated. "Mom authorized you to use my identity to apply for a $1 million loan?" "It is not $1 million. It is $930,000, she corrected, as if the distinction mattered. "And stop acting like I stole your kidney. It is just on paper." Lucy, it strengthens the application. The broker said I needed a slightly lower debt ratio to get the prime interest rate. Mom said you would not mind because you are always helping us out. We were going to tell you after the closing so you would not stress out about it. Going to tell me after the closing. The sentence hung in the air. Toxic and heavy. Megan, I said, stepping closer. Do you understand what a co-borrower is? It means if you miss a payment, I pay. It means this debt shows up on my credit report. It means I cannot buy a car or a house of my own because the bank will think I am already carrying $1 million in debt. You are so dramatic. Megan groaned. She picked up a roll of packing tape. I am not going to miss a payment. Tyler's business is taking off. I have the promotion coming up. You are literally crying over nothing. It is just a signature. I did not sign anything, I shouted. The control finally snapped. I never signed an application. Megan flinched, but then her face hardened. She crossed her arms. Well, Elaine handled the paperwork, she said, throwing our mother under the bus with practiced ease. She said she would take care of the details. I just wanted the house. Lucy, I deserve this house. Why can you not just be happy for me? Why does everything have to be about your rules and your credit score? She was looking at me with genuine resentment. In her mind, I was the aggressor. I was the obstacle. The fact that she had committed a federal crime was irrelevant. The crime was that I was ruining her vibe. I looked at my sister. I saw the 30-year-old woman who still acted like a teenager, protected by parents who feared her tantrums more than they valued my safety. I am not happy for you, I said quietly, and I am not going to let you do this. Megan laughed. A harsh, barking sound. It is too late. Lucy, we close in 10 days. The train has left the station. If you try to stop it now, you will lose the $8,000 for sure, and Mom will never forgive you. Do you really want to be the reason I'm homeless? She turned her back on me and started taping a box. The sound of the tape ripping was loud and final. I walked out. I did not go to my parents' house. I knew what awaited me there. Tears, guilt, the heavy blanket of keeping the peace. Instead, I sat in my car and searched for a name I had heard mentioned by a colleague once, Dana Pike, real estate litigation. I called her office. The receptionist tried to schedule me for the following week. I have an urgent situation involving imminent mortgage fraud and identity theft within a family. I said, the closing is in 10 days. Can you be here at 4 o'clock? The receptionist asked. I was there at 3:45. Dana Pike's office was nothing like the Harborgate website. It was in a brick building downtown, smelled of old paper and lemon polish, and was terrifyingly quiet. Dana herself was a woman in her 50s with short, steel-gray hair and glasses that hung on a chain around her neck. She did not smile when I entered. She pointed to a chair. Talk, she said. I talked. I told her about the shared bill account, the missing $8,000, the laptop Tyler had fixed, the email from Harborgate, the confrontation with Megan. Dana listened without interrupting. She took notes on a yellow legal pad with a fountain pen. When I finished, she capped the pen and looked at me over her glasses. You are in a very dangerous position, Ms. Collins, she said. Her voice was dry, devoid of the pity I usually got from friends when I complained about my family. I know, I said. That is why I am here. No, Dana said. I do not think you do know. If that loan closes with your name on it, you are liable for 30 years. If your sister defaults, the bank sues you. But it is worse than that. If the bank finds out the application was fraudulent, and they will, eventually, and your name is on it, you could be named as a co-conspirator in bank fraud, federal bank fraud. My stomach dropped. I did not do it. I whispered, prove it, Dana said. She leaned forward. In the eyes of the law, right now, there is a document with your signature on it. There are bank statements that came from you. There is a login from your credentials. Unless you aggressively dispute this, the narrative is that you agreed to help your sister and then got cold feet. What do I do? I asked. Dana started counting on her fingers. 1. You file a police report for identity theft immediately. Today, not a family dispute report. Identity theft. 2. You place a freeze on all 3 credit bureaus. 3. We send a formal demand letter to Harborgate Lending requiring a copy of the entire mortgage file under the Fair Credit Reporting Act. They will stonewall you, but they will not stonewall me. I nodded, writing this down. And 4, Dana added, her voice softening just a fraction. You have to be prepared to burn the bridge. You cannot stop this loan and keep your family happy. Those two outcomes are mutually exclusive. I thought of Megan taping the box. I thought of Elaine telling me to let it go. Burn it. I said. I left her office and went straight to the police station. It was a sterile, fluorescent-lit room. I filled out the identity theft report. When the officer asked for the suspect's name, my pen hovered over the paper. Suspect name. I wrote Megan Collins. Then I added Tyler Vance. I walked out with a case number. Next, I sat in my car and used my phone to freeze my credit. Equifax, Experian, TransUnion, click, click, click. It felt like I was locking the doors of a fortress. Then came the hard part, the waiting, for 3 days. The silence was deafening. I went to work. I did my job. I did not call my family. I saw messages pop up in the group chat. Photos of furniture Megan was buying. Emojis from my mother. I didn't open them. On Thursday, Dana called me. I have the file. She said, Harborgate tried to claim privacy privilege, but I sent them a draft of a complaint to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. They faxed it over 10 minutes ago. Come in. I was back in the leather chair within the hour. The file was thick. Dana pushed it across the mahogany desk toward me. Read the tab marked Gift Letter, she said. I flipped the pages. There it was. A form titled Gift Letter Affidavit. It stated, I, Lucy Collins, hereby certify that I have given a gift of $25,000 to Megan Collins for the purchase of the property located at 412 Elm Street. This is a gift, not a loan, and no repayment is expected or implied. $25,000. My mouth went dry. They hadn't just taken the $8,000. They had invented another $17,000 out of thin air to satisfy the bank's down payment requirement. Look at the signature, Dana said. I looked. At the bottom, in a loopy, shaky hand that tried too hard to look elegant, was signed, Lucy M. Collins. I stared at it. My middle name is Anne, I said quietly. My initial is A, not M, Dana nodded. Sloppy, they guessed, or they just didn't care. Now, look at the employment verification. I turned the page. It was a letter on Ridgeway Systems letterhead. My company. It looked authentic. It had the logo. It was signed by a human resources director named Sarah Jenkins. We do not have a Sarah Jenkins, I said, and I looked at the salary figure, $140,000. I wish I made that much, I muttered. They nearly doubled my salary. This is a complete fabrication, Dana said. They forged your company's letterhead. This is not just borrowing your credit. Lucy, this is manufacturing a person who does not exist. A Lucy Collins who makes double your salary and gives away $25,000 without blinking. I felt a wave of nausea. Who witnessed the gift letter? I asked. Dana pointed to a scrawl on the bottom left. Witness, Tyler Vance. I let out a short, bitter breath. Of course, he witnessed a crime. He put his name on a federal document attesting to a lie. He is an idiot, Dana said flatly, but a useful one. This ties him to the conspiracy. It is not just Megan acting alone. My phone rang. It was my mother. I looked at Dana. Answer it, Dana said, but do not agree to anything. Just listen. I put the phone on speaker. Lucy? Elaine's voice was high, tight, vibrating with panic. Hi, Mom, Lucy. The mortgage broker just called Megan. He said there is a lock on your credit report. They cannot run the final check before closing. You need to lift it, right now. I looked at the forged gift letter on the desk. I cannot do that. Mom, I said. What do you mean you cannot? Elaine cried. Megan is in tears. Lucy, she is hysterical. The closing is in 6 days. If they do not get that final clear to close by Monday, the seller is going to walk. There are backup offers. She will lose the house. She should not have applied for a house she could not afford. I said, "She can afford it," Elaine shouted. "She just needed a little help on the application. Why are you doing this? Why are you being so cruel?" She forged my signature. "Mom," I said, my voice cutting through her hysteria. She signed my name to a gift letter for $25,000. She falsified a letter from my employer. There was a silence on the line. A long, heavy pause. Elaine did not say. She did what? She did not say. That is impossible. Instead, she said, barely above a whisper, "It is just paperwork. Lucy, it does not mean you actually have to pay the $25,000. It is just to show the bank." I closed my eyes. The confirmation hit me harder than the theft. She knew. My mother knew. She knew about the forgery. She probably watched Megan sign it. "You knew." I said, "Lucy, please," Elaine begged, ignoring the accusation. "Just lift the freeze for 24 hours. That is all they need. Just let it go through. Afterward, Megan will refinance in 6 months and take your name off. I promise. Dad promises. Just do not ruin this for her. She is finally happy." I looked at Dana. Dana shook her head slowly. "I am not lifting the freeze, Mom," I said, "and I am not the one ruining this." I hung up. I sat there, staring at the disconnected screen. I felt like I had just amputated a limb. The pain was searing, but the rot was gone. She knew. I said to Dana, "They usually do." Dana said gently, "The enablers are often more invested in the lie than the liars." I stood up. I felt heavy, exhausted, but also focused. "What is the next step?" I asked. "Now we weaponize the truth." Dana said, "We have the evidence, but we need to find the money. You said $8,000 was missing. The gift letter says $25,000. Where is the rest coming from? And where did your $8,000 go?" "I have the transaction IDs." I said, "I went home. I did not sleep. I spent the night on my laptop. But this time, I wasn't looking at my budget. I was looking at Tyler Vance. I searched his name. I found a LinkedIn profile that listed him as a freelance consultant. I found an Instagram page full of pictures of him and Megan at expensive dinners, captions about the grind and leveling up. Then I found a Facebook page for a small business called Vance Document Solutions. It had 12 likes. The most recent post was from 6 months ago. "Need help with loan apps? Rental forms? We make your paperwork look professional. DM for rates." I stared at the screen. A side hustle. Tyler was selling fraud. He was helping people fake their way into apartments and loans they couldn't afford. And he had used my sister as his guinea pig. Or maybe his partner. I went back to the bank statements I had printed out. I looked at the transfers again. The descriptions were vague. Venmo, Cash App, but there was one wire transfer. The final one, for $4,000. It had a reference code. I plugged the reference code into the search bar of my bank's portal. It gave me the routing number of the recipient. I searched the routing number. It wasn't a friend. It wasn't a shop. It was Seabridge Title Trust. I sat back. The $8,000 had not gone to family things. It hadn't gone to pay my father's medical bills. It hadn't even gone to Megan's personal account. It had been wired directly into an escrow account. I looked at the file Dana had given me. The title company for the sale was Seabridge Title Trust, my money, my safety net. The money I had saved by eating ramen and skipping vacations was currently sitting in an escrow account, serving as the earnest money deposit for a house I did not own. I was not just a co-borrower. I was the primary investor. I looked at the clock. It was 3 a.m. The closing was scheduled for next week. They thought I was just spiraling. They thought I was just a jealous sister making noise. They had no idea that I had the map to their entire minefield. I picked up my phone and opened the family group chat. There were dozens of messages I hadn't read. Guilt trips from aunts, Bible verses from my grandmother about forgiveness, a photo of Megan crying. I didn't type anything. I didn't leave the group. I took a screenshot of the wire transfer tracing to the title company. I printed it out and taped it into my notebook. Part 2 was over. I had the evidence. I knew the players. I knew the stakes. Now, It was time to crash the party. I went to bed, and for the first time in a week, I slept soundly. I wasn't afraid anymore. You are only afraid when you don't know what is in the dark. I had turned on the lights, and I could see everything. The invitation came via a group text on Wednesday morning. Family dinner. Sunday at 5 p.m. Mom is making her roast. Megan and Tyler have big news to share about the move. Please everyone come. It is important we are all together. I stared at the screen of my phone. The audacity was almost impressive. 3 days ago, my mother had begged me to facilitate a felony. Now, she was hosting a roast. My first instinct was to delete the message and block the number. Every fiber of my being screamed to run, to hide, to sever the tie completely. But Dana's voice echoed in my head. We need admissions. We need proof that this was not a misunderstanding, but a conspiracy. I typed a reply. I will be there. The days leading up to Sunday passed in a blur of cold, mechanical efficiency. I went to work. I sat in meetings. I nodded at colleagues. But my mind was a split screen. On one side, I was Lucy the project manager. On the other, I was Lucy the auditor. I spent my evenings digging. Now that I knew where to look, the red flags were everywhere. I pulled my credit report again, this time looking not just for current activity, but for history. I combed through the closed accounts section. I found a credit card opened 8 years ago, when I was 24 and Megan was a sophomore in college. It had a limit of $2,000. It had been maxed out and paid off, then closed 3 years later. The address on file for that card was my old apartment in the city, a place Megan had never lived, but where she had crashed on my couch for a summer. I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the air conditioning. This wasn't new. This wasn't a desperate, one-time lapse in judgment to buy a dream home. Megan had been using my identity as a resource for nearly a decade. She had been practicing. Sunday arrived with a gray, overcast sky. I dressed carefully, a navy blouse, slacks, sensible heels, armor. I drove to my parents' house, a modest 2-story colonial that had always felt like a sanctuary until recently. Now, it looked like a trap. I checked my purse. My phone was fully charged. The voice recorder app was on the home screen. In this state, as long as I was a party to the conversation, I could record it. I intended to be a very active party. I walked in. The smell of rosemary and roasting meat hit me instantly, triggering a wave of nostalgia that I ruthlessly suppressed. Lucy! Elaine appeared in the hallway, wiping her hands on an apron. Her smile was tight, her eyes scanning my face for signs of compliance. I am so glad you came. I let her hug me. She felt frail, smaller than I remembered. It was hard to reconcile this warm, soft woman with the person who had told me to ignore a forged signature. Hi, Mom, I said. Come in, come in. Megan and Tyler are in the living room. Your Aunt Linda is here too. I walked into the living room. It was a tableau of suburban normalcy. My father sat in his recliner. Aunt Linda was on the sofa with a glass of wine. And there, holding court in the center of the room, was Megan. She looked radiant. She was wearing a cream-colored dress that looked expensive. Tyler stood next to her, a hand on her shoulder, looking smug in a polo shirt that was slightly too tight. Lucy! Megan exclaimed. She didn't hug me. She just beamed at me from across the room, as if the conversation in her apartment had never happened. I was just telling Aunt Linda about the neighborhood. It has a park right down the street. It is perfect for dogs. And kids. Eventually, she winked at Tyler. Aunt Linda squealed. That is wonderful, I said, taking a seat on the far edge of the sofa. Megan turned to the room, raising her voice slightly. Honestly, we could not have done it without family support. Especially Lucy. She has been such a rock. I froze. The room went quiet. Everyone looked at me with warm, approving smiles. Megan continued, her eyes locking onto mine with a challenge. You know how stressful the financial part is, but knowing I have my big sister in my corner, it just makes all the difference. Thank you, Lucy. Seriously, for always helping. It was a masterstroke. She was framing my silence as consent. She was publicly thanking me for the very thing I was fighting against. If I objected now, in front of Aunt Linda and my father, I wouldn't just look petty, I would look like a liar. I would look unstable. I forced a smile. It felt like stretching rubber. Family helps family. I said. Tyler smirked. He knew. He knew I was trapped. Dinner was an exercise in torture. I sat next to my father, who focused intently on his potatoes. Megan talked nonstop about paint colors and hardwood floors. Elaine kept piling food onto my plate, as if calories could buy my silence. I waited until dessert. Megan and Tyler went outside to smoke, or vape, or whatever they did. Aunt Linda went to the bathroom. My father turned on the television. I followed my mother into the kitchen. She was loading the dishwasher. I pulled out my phone. I tapped the red button on the screen. I set it face down on the counter. Mom, I said. She jumped slightly. Oh, you startled me. We need to talk about the closing, I said, keeping my voice low. Lucy, please, she hissed, glancing at the doorway. Not tonight. Everyone is happy. Look at your sister. Have you ever seen her this grounded? She is grounded because she thinks she got away with it. I said, Mom, the gift letter, the employment verification, you know those are fake. Elaine stopped loading the dishes. She leaned against the counter, her shoulders sagging. It is not fake. Lucy, it is creative. Tyler knows how these banks work. They ask for impossible things. You have to massage the truth a little to get through the door. Once they are in the house, they will pay the mortgage. Tyler has a big contract coming up, and if they do not, I asked, if they default, do you know what happens to me? They will not default, Elaine insisted, her voice rising in a whisper. And even if they struggle, we will help. Dad and I have some retirement savings. We would never let you get hurt. You already let me get hurt, I said. You told her she could use my name. I did not tell her to use your name, Elaine said quickly. I told her you would come around. I felt a sharp ping in my chest. There it was. You told her I would come around? I repeated. I told her you are difficult at first, but you always do the right thing in the end. Elaine said, You hate conflict. Lucy, you always have. I knew if she just got the ball rolling, you would not stop it. I knew you would not want to cause a scene. I looked at my mother. She wasn't evil. She was weak. She had traded my safety for the path of least resistance. She had weaponized my own nature against me. I picked up my phone. I stopped the recording. I am not the same person I was. Mom, I said. I walked out of the kitchen. I walked past the living room where my father was asleep in his chair. I walked out the front door. Megan and Tyler were on the porch. They stopped talking when they saw me. Leaving so soon? Megan asked, blowing a cloud of smoke into the cool evening air. I have work to do, I said. Megan laughed. You always have work to do. You need to learn to live a little. Lucy, maybe once we move into the house, you can come over for a barbecue. Relax by the fire pit. I looked at her. I looked at the house she was stealing. I looked at the sister I had protected for 30 years. Maybe, I said. I walked to my car. I didn't look back. Monday morning. I was back in war mode. I called Harborgate Lending again. This time, I didn't ask for Brad. I navigated the phone tree until I reached the general underwriting queue. Harborgate Lending. This is Sarah. Hi, Sarah, I said, adopting a breezy, slightly scattered tone. This is Lucy Collins. I am the co-borrower on the Elm Street property. I was just looking over the paperwork and I noticed a typo on one of the forms I sent over. I wanted to make sure it didn't hold up the closing. Are we still on track for Friday? Let me check the file, Sarah said. I held my breath. Okay, Ms. Collins, I see the file here. It looks like the closing is scheduled for next Monday, not Friday. The 10th? Monday. I repeated, okay. And the status? Conditionally approved. Sarah said, We are just waiting on the final verbal verification of employment from your sister's job, and the clear to close will be issued. The wire instructions have already been sent to the title company. Wire instructions sent. That meant the train was barreling toward the cliff. Thank you. Sarah, I said. I hung up and called Dana. We have a week. I said, "The closing is next Monday." "Good," Dana said. "That gives us time to position the pieces." "What do I do?" I asked. "Do I call the fraud department now?" "Not yet," Dana cautioned. "If you call now, they might just deny the loan quietly. Megan will spin it as the bank being difficult. She will find another lender. She will try again, maybe using a different angle. We need to let them commit. We need the documents to be locked in. We need the lie to be irreversible." "So I wait?" "You wait until Thursday," Dana said. "Thursday is 3 days before closing. That is the sweet spot. In the meantime, you protect your perimeter. You said you found old accounts?" "Yes. Lock it all down," Dana said. "And Lucy? Move your money. If she has your account number, she can try to pull more." I left work at lunch. I went to a bank I had never used before, a credit union on the other side of town. I opened a new checking account and a new savings account. I transferred everything, every cent from my old checking, the remaining $27,000 from my emergency fund. I sat in the cubicle with the banker, watching the balance on my phone drop to 0 in my old accounts. It felt terrifying. That account number had been my identity for 10 years, but it was compromised. It was infected. I went back to the office and logged into my payroll portal. I changed my direct deposit. I logged into my utilities, my credit cards, my insurance. I updated every single autopay to the new account. By 5 o'clock, I had digitally vanished from the financial ecosystem my family inhabited. If Megan tried to pull another advance, she would hit a wall. I went home. I felt lighter. I made dinner, a real dinner, not takeout. I poured a glass of wine. Then my phone buzzed. It was an Instagram notification. I didn't follow Megan, but her profile was public. I opened the app. Megan had posted a story. It was a black screen with white text. "It is sad when you realize some people want to see you fail more than they want to see you happy. Toxic people who punish family for trying to better themselves. I pray for you. New chapter removing negativity dream home." I stared at it. It was vague enough to be deniable, but specific enough to be a dog whistle. 10 minutes later, the messages started. A text from my cousin Sarah. "Is everything okay with you and Megs? She seems really upset." A text from Aunt Linda. "Lucy, call your sister. She says you are blocking the house purchase. Why would you do that?" A DM from a friend of the family I hadn't seen in years. "Hey, saw Megan's post. Hope you guys are good. Family is everything." She was winning the PR war. She was isolating me. She was painting a picture where I was the jealous, vindictive obstructionist, and she was the martyr. I wanted to reply. I wanted to post the screenshots of the stolen money. I wanted to post the forged gift letter, but I didn't. I put the phone down. Let her talk. I told myself, let her build the tower as high as she wants. The higher it is, the harder it falls. Tuesday passed. Wednesday passed. The silence from Megan was ominous. She must have tried to access the account again. She must have seen the zero balance. But she didn't call. She knew that calling would be an admission. She was likely scrambling, trying to find another source for whatever last-minute fees she needed. Thursday morning arrived, the day of the strike. I was sitting at my desk, preparing to call Dana to initiate the fraud report, when an email popped into my inbox. It was from a secure document delivery service. Subject: Appraisal Addendum, 412 Elm Street. I frowned. Why was I getting this? I opened it. It was a formal appraisal report for the house. I scrolled to the bottom. There, in the section marked Additional Comments, was a note from the appraiser. Subject property is being purchased by Megan Collins and Lucy Collins, non-occupant. Financial reliance on co-borrower income is noted for valuation risk assessment. My name was everywhere. It was on the loan application. It was on the gift letter. It was on the bank statements. And now, it was on the appraisal. My identity had been woven into the very DNA of this house. I wasn't just a signature anymore. I was a structural component. I felt a surge of panic. It was so deep, so entrenched. Could I even untangle this? Then I saw the date on the appraisal. It was dated yesterday. They were moving forward. They were finalizing the package. I called Dana. I got an appraisal addendum. I said, "Good," Dana said. "That means the file is complete. They are ready to draw the loan documents. Is it time?" I asked. "It is time," Dana said. "Draft the email to the fraud department, attach the affidavit of forgery, attach the police report, and copy the title company." I opened a new email. To fraudharbor@gatalending.com, closingseabridgetitle.com, subject, urgent, fraudulent application, loan 889201, 412, Elm Street. I typed the body of the email. My fingers flew across the keys. To whom it may concern, I am writing to formally dispute the validity of the mortgage application for the property at 412 Elm Street. I am listed as a co-borrower on this loan. I did not apply for this loan. I did not sign any documents. I attached the files, the timeline, the forged gift letter, the real employment verification I had obtained from my own HR department that showed my actual salary, the police report number. I hesitated before hitting send. This was the nuclear option. Once I sent this, there was no going back. Megan would lose the house. She might go to jail. Tyler might go to jail. My parents would be devastated. The family would be fractured, perhaps permanently. I looked at the sticky note on my monitor where I had written, "You always hate conflict." My mother's voice, the voice that had kept me small, the voice that had kept me paying. I thought of the $8,000. I thought of the $25,000 lie. I thought of the 30 years of debt my name would carry. I am not paying for peace anymore. I whispered. I hit send. The send button on my email client did not make a sound, but it felt like I had just dropped a gavel in a silent courtroom. I sat back in my ergonomic office chair, my hands resting on the cool laminate of my desk. The email to Harborgate Lending's fraud department was gone. It was not a scream for help. It was not a tearful narrative about sisterhood and betrayal. It was a sterile, surgical packet of evidence. I had attached Exhibit A, the timeline of unauthorized transfers from my savings account, matched against the dates of Megan's earnest money deposits. Exhibit B, a side-by-side comparison of my real signature, looping, sharp, with a distinct capital A for Anne, against the forged signature on the gift letter affidavit, which used a rounded, childish M. Exhibit C, the employment verification letter generated by Tyler, claiming I was a senior vice president earning $140,000, contrasted with my actual pay stubs and a genuine letter from my HR director stating my title as project manager and my actual salary. It was boring. It was bureaucratic. It was lethal. I stared at the screen for a long time. The office hummed around me. Phones ringing. Keyboards clacking. People complaining about the coffee. They had no idea that I had just detonated a bomb that would destroy my family's reality. The response came 3 hours later. My phone rang. The area code was from out of state. "This is Lucy Collins," I answered. "Ms. Collins, this is Neil Carver from the Risk Management Division at Harborgate Lending." His voice was like sandpaper, dry, rough, and completely devoid of warmth. This was not Brad the sales guy. This was the cleaner. "Mr. Carver." I said, "Did you receive my email?" "I did." He said, "I am looking at it now. We have suspended the file for loan number 889201, pending a full internal review." Suspended. The word hung in the air. "What does that mean for the closing?" I asked, though I knew the answer. "There will be no closing on Monday." "Ms. Collins," Carver said, "we have flagged the application for potential fraud. We will be contacting the primary borrower and the title company to issue a stop work order." "Thank you," I said. "Ms. Collins," Carver added, his tone dropping an octave. "If these documents are indeed forged as you allege, we are legally required to file a suspicious activity report with the Treasury Department. This moves out of civil territory. Do you understand?" I felt a cold shiver run down my spine. This was the moment of no return. "I understand," I said. I hung up. I expected to feel triumphant. I expected a rush of adrenaline. Instead, I felt a heavy, suffocating dread. I had stopped the theft. Yes, but I had also pulled the pin on a grenade. and I was standing in the same room as the people who were about to get hit by the shrapnel. I left work early again. I could not focus on spreadsheets when my real life was collapsing. I went home to my apartment. I locked the deadbolt. I checked the chain. I turned off the lights in the living room and sat in the kitchen, waiting. It took 2 hours. At 6:15, the pounding started. It wasn't a knock. It was a physical assault on the wood of my door. "Lucy, open the door. Open the damn door right now." It was Megan. Her voice was shredded, hysterical, unrecognizable. I stayed seated at the island. I did not move. "Lucy, I know you are in there. I saw your car. You ruined it. You ruined everything." She kicked the door. The frame rattled. I stood up slowly. I walked to the door. But I did not open it. I looked through the peephole. Megan was standing in the hallway. She looked deranged. Her mascara was smeared down her cheeks in black rivulets. Her hair, usually blown out to perfection, was matted and wild. She was wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt. No jacket, shivering in the hallway draft. "Go away." "Megan?" I said through the door. "Open up!" she screamed, slamming her palms against the wood. "How could you do this? They called me. The broker called me. They said the loan is dead. They said there is a fraud investigation. You committed fraud." "Megan," I said, my voice calm, muffled by the door. "That is what happens." "I did not," she shrieked. "I just borrowed your name. It was just paper. It was supposed to be temporary." The confession slipped out of her mouth before she could catch it. Temporary. I unlocked the deadbolt and opened the door. I left the chain on, creating a 3-inch gap between us. Megan's face appeared in the slice of light. Her eyes were red and swollen. "It was supposed to be temporary?" I repeated. "Yes," she cried, tears spilling over again. "We were going to refinance in 6 months. Tyler has a deal closing in February. We were going to take you off the title. I just needed the house now because the seller was going to walk. You stole my money, Megan," I said. "You forged my signature. You lied to the bank. I did it for us," she yelled, stamping her foot like a child. "For the family. Mom wanted me to have this house. Dad wanted me to have this house. You are the only one who cares about the stupid rules. You are just jealous." I stared at her. Jealous. Jealous of what? I asked quietly. "Of me. Of my life." She spat. "You are 32 and you live in this box. You are single. You are miserable. I am building a life. I am getting married. I am buying a dream home. And you cannot stand it. You are pathetic. Lucy, you care more about your precious credit score than you care about your own sister's happiness." I looked at her. Really looked at her. She wasn't angry because she had lost a house. She was terrified. Megan had spent her entire life curating a persona. She was the fun one, the pretty one, the one who deserved nice things because she was special. This house was the ultimate prop in her stage play. Without it, the illusion crumbled. If she didn't close on this house, she wasn't the successful bride-to-be. She was just a broke girl with a history of bad decisions and a fiancé who scammed people for a living. She wasn't fighting for a home. She was fighting for her mask. "You are right," I said softly. "I do care about my credit score. Because unlike you, I earned it." I tried to close the door. Megan jammed her foot in the gap. "If you do not fix this," she hissed, her voice dropping to a venomous whisper, "if you do not call them back and tell them it was a mistake, I will never forgive you. Mom will never forgive you. You will be dead to us." I looked down at her sneaker wedged in my doorframe. "I am already dead to you." "Megan," I said, "I am just a ghost with a checkbook." I kicked her foot back into the hallway and slammed the door. I threw the deadbolt. I slid down to the floor, my back against the wood, and listened to her scream my name until a neighbor came out and threatened to call the police. Then, finally, silence. I sat there for 20 minutes, shaking. The adrenaline was wearing off, leaving behind a cold, hollow ache. I had stood my ground, but it didn't feel like victory. It felt like amputation. My phone buzzed in my pocket. It was my mother. I let it go to voicemail. She called again immediately, and again. On the fourth attempt, I answered, "Lucy." Elaine's voice was trembling. She sounded old. "Hi, Mom, Megan is here," Elaine whispered. She is inconsolable. Lucy, I have never seen her like this. She says you reported her to the police. I reported the fraud to the bank. I said, the bank will report it to the authorities. That is out of my hands. You have to stop it. Elaine pleaded. Lucy, please. You have to call them. Tell them you were confused. Tell them you forgot you signed the papers. We can fix this. We cannot fix this. I said, we can. Elaine insisted. Listen to me. Dad and I, we will pay you back. Not all at once. We do not have it all at once, but we can set up a plan. $200 a month. We will make it right. Just do not let your sister go to jail. Do not let her lose this house. $200 a month. I did the math in my head. To repay the $25,000 liability and the $8,000 stolen cash, it would take them 165 months, 13 years. Mom, I said, cutting her off, I have a question. What? She asked, breathless with hope. Did you know about the gift letter? I asked. Did you see her sign my name? The line went silent. I could hear her breathing. I could hear the faint sound of the television in the background. I asked you a question. Mom, I did not look closely at the papers. Elaine stammered. I just saw a stack of documents. I knew she was signing things. I did not ask specifics. I just wanted to help her. You witnessed it, didn't you? I asked, my voice cracking. You stood there and watched her commit a felony against your own daughter, and you said nothing. Lucy, you are being so harsh, Elaine cried. It was not against you. It was for the house. It was for the family. Why do you have to make everything about you? I hung up. I turned off my phone. I went into the bathroom and splashed cold water on my face. I looked at myself in the mirror. I looked tired, but my eyes were clear. It was for the family. That was the mantra. The Collins family motto. We destroy Lucy to save Megan. Not anymore. The next morning, I walked out of my apartment building to go to work. The sky was clear, a sharp, biting blue. As I reached the sidewalk, a figure stepped out from behind a parked van. It was Tyler. He looked rough. He hadn't shaved. He was wearing a hoodie with the hood up, like a bad caricature of a tough guy. Hey, neighbor, he said, stepping into my path. I stopped. I gripped my purse strap. Get out of my way. Tyler, we need to talk, he said, moving closer. You caused a lot of problems last night. Megan is a wreck. That sounds like a personal problem, I said, trying to step around him. He sidestepped to block me. He was close enough that I could smell stale cigarette smoke and cheap cologne. You think you are so smart, he said, his voice low and sneering. Miss Corporate, Miss Perfect. But you have secrets too. Lucy, I stared at him. I do not have secrets. Tyler. Oh, really? He smirked. I fixed your laptop, remember? I have a complete backup of your hard drive. Every email, every photo, every browser history log. I felt a flash of cold fear. I searched my mind. What was on there? Nothing illegal, nothing scandalous, but it was my life, my private journals, my medical records, my failed dating app conversations. So what? I said, keeping my face blank. So, Tyler said, leaning in, it would be a shame if everyone at Ridgeway Systems found out their project manager was searching for, let us say, sensitive things, or if your personal diary got emailed to the entire company directory. I can make you look very unstable. Lucy, I can make you look like the crazy sister who invented a fraud story to cover up her own mental breakdown. He was threatening to gaslight me on an industrial scale. Is that a threat? Tyler, I asked. It is a negotiation, he said. Call the bank. Retract the report. Tell them you signed the gift letter and just forgot. Or I start leaking your life to the internet. I looked at him. I looked at the amateurish way he held his hands in his pockets. I looked at the desperation in his eyes. He was bluffing, or partially bluffing, even if he wasn't. Giving in to blackmail was a one-way ticket to hell. I pulled my phone out of my pocket. I held it up. I just recorded that. Tyler, I said. His eyes widened. He took a step back. You are bluffing, he said. Try me. I said, send one email, post one photo, and I will add extortion and cyberstalking to the list of charges I am handing to the district attorney. You are already on the hook for wire fraud and forgery. Do you really want to add 5 more years to your sentence? Tyler stared at me. His smirk vanished. He looked like a cornered rat. You are a bitch, he spat. And you are a witness on a forged federal document. I said, have a nice day. I walked past him. My knees were shaking, but I didn't break stride. I got into my car and locked the doors. I drove 2 blocks before I pulled over and dry-heaved into a coffee cup. He had violated my privacy. He had stolen my passwords. And now he was trying to weaponize my own existence against me. I drove to Dana Pike's office. I didn't have an appointment, but I didn't care. I told her everything. The visit from Megan, the call from Elaine, the threat from Tyler. Dana listened, her face grim. They are scared, she said, and scared people are dangerous. But they are also sloppy. She opened a folder on her desk. While you were dealing with the family drama, I got a response to my subpoena threat. She said, Harborgate's legal department is trying to distance themselves from the broker. They sent over the communication logs to show that they were deceived too. She slid a piece of paper across the desk. It was an email printout. From Elaine Collins to Brad. Miller, Harborgate Lending, subject, missing signature. Brad, I will get Lucy to sign the updated form this weekend. She is just busy with work. Do not worry about the co-borrower hesitancy. She is just nervous about the process. But she is fully on board. Lucy won't mind once it's done. She just needs a little push. Proceed with the approval. I stared at the words. Lucy won't mind once it's done. My mother hadn't just known. She had orchestrated the psychology of the fraud. She had assured the broker that my consent was a formality that could be bypassed because I was a pushover. There is more, Dana said. She pulled out another sheet. This is a text log between Megan and her realtor. Sienna Hart. Megan. Hey, so the down payment money is coming from a different account now. My sister's savings. Is that an issue? Sienna. As long as it is sourced, I do not care. Just get the funds into escrow. We cannot lose this deal. If the underwriter asks, just say it is a gift. Do not say it is a loan, or they will kill the deal. Megan. Okay, we will write a letter. Sienna. Make sure it looks real. The realtor knew. I said, Sienna Hart knew the money was a loan, not a gift. Dana said, she advised Megan to lie to the underwriter. That is mortgage fraud conspiracy. Sienna Hart could lose her license. She could go to prison. I sat back in the chair. The scale of it was overwhelming. My mother, my sister, her boyfriend, the broker, the realtor. It was a ring of corruption built solely to get Megan into a house she didn't earn. So we have them. I said, we have them cold. Dana agreed. We can go to the police with this new evidence. We can sue them all. We can destroy their lives. Megan will likely serve time. Tyler definitely will. Your mother. She could be charged as an accessory. Sienna loses her career. Dana paused. She took off her glasses and looked at me. But Lucy, you need to decide what you want. I want my money back. I said, if we go the criminal route, the assets get frozen. Dana said, the house purchase is canceled. The seller keeps the earnest money, your $8,000, as liquidated damages for the breach of contract. You will have to sue Megan to get it back. She has no money. You will win a judgment against a person who is bankrupt and in prison. You will never see a dime. I stared at her. So I lose? I stop the fraud, but I lose my savings? Dana nodded. In a purely criminal justice scenario? Yes, you get justice, but you do not get restitution. I thought about the empty accounts. I thought about the years of saving. I thought about Megan's sneer. You are pathetic. Lucy, I don't want to lose, I said. Then we need a third path, Dana said. She leaned forward. The money, your $8,000, is in the escrow account at Seabridge Title. Dana explained. The seller is furious. The deal is collapsing. Megan cannot close because her loan is suspended. The seller is going to relist the house. So, Dana said, tapping the desk. You are the only person in this equation with clean hands and actual money. You have the leverage. We don't just report the fraud, we leverage the fraud. How? I asked. We force a settlement, Dana said. We tell Megan and Tyler that you will withhold the additional evidence, the texts, the emails, the threats, from the police, if they agree to your terms. We tell the realtor we will not report her to the licensing board if she cooperates. And what are the terms? I asked. Dana smiled, a sharp, shark-like smile. We take the house, she said. I blinked. What? The seller wants to sell, Dana said. The deal is dead for Megan, but your money is already in the pot. You are already approved as a borrower, albeit fraudulently, but you have excellent credit. You have the income. You have the savings in your new account. You want me to buy the house? I asked. Megan's dream home? It is the only way to save your $8,000. Dana said. We convert the stolen earnest money into your earnest money. We force Megan to sign a release transferring the deposit to you as restitution. We force Tyler to repay the rest, and you close on the property. I sat there, stunned. It was insane. It was vindictive, and it was brilliant. If I sent them to jail, I was the villain who ruined the family. I was the destroyer. But if I bought the house, I was the savior. I was cleaning up the mess. I was keeping the asset in the family, technically, but it would be mine, my deed, my keys, my rules. Megan wanted a house. She wanted me to pay for it. Fine, I would pay for it, but I would live in it. I looked at the picture of the house in the appraisal report. It was a beautiful house, a craftsman bungalow with a wide porch and cedar shingles. It was sturdy. It was real. It was everything I had denied myself while I was busy being safe. Do it, I said. Dana picked up her pen. I will draft the settlement agreement, she said. Get ready. Lucy, you are about to become a homeowner. I walked out of Dana's office into the bright afternoon sun. The dread was gone. The fear was gone. I felt something new, something cold and hard and powerful. I wasn't just taking my money back. I was taking the symbol of their entitlement. I took out my phone. I saw a text from Megan. Please, Lucy, just fix it. I typed a reply. I am fixing it. I hit send. Then I drove to the bank to get a certified check. The certified check in my purse felt heavy, like a loaded weapon I was not yet sure I wanted to fire. But before I could use it, I had to clear the battlefield. I sat in Dana Pike's office on Friday morning, the air conditioner humming a low, steady drone that contrasted with the hurricane raging inside my family text thread. Dana had the mortgage packet spread out on her desk. She was tracing a line on a document with the tip of her pen. Look at this. Lucy, she said. I leaned in. It was the wire transfer confirmation for the earnest money deposit, the initial cash required to open escrow and prove to the seller that the buyer is serious. The amount was exactly $8,000. The originating account number was mine. I stared at the numbers. Megan did not just steal your money to buy furniture or pay off a credit card, Dana said, her voice sharp with professional interest. She used your stolen funds to secure the contract. That $8,000 is the foundation of this entire transaction. What does that mean for me? I asked. It means you have a property interest, Dana said. You are not just a victim of theft. You are an involuntary investor. That money is sitting in an escrow account at Seabridge Title right now. It is commingled funds. She looked up at me, removing her glasses. This gives us a lever. Lucy, a massive one. We can file for an immediate injunction. We can contact the title company and inform them that the funds held in escrow are proceeds of fraud and conversion. Conversion? I asked. The civil theft of property. Dana explained. If we notify the title company that the earnest money is disputed, they legally cannot release it. They cannot close the deal. They have to freeze the account until the dispute is resolved. And if the account is frozen? Then the closing stops dead. Dana said, "The seller is already nervous because Harborgate suspended the loan. If the title company freezes the escrow account, the seller will panic. They will see a deal that is radioactive. They will terminate the contract to free up the property for another buyer." I sat back. This was the kill switch. "Do it," I said. Dana picked up the phone. She put it on speaker. I listened as she navigated the automated menu of Seabridge Title Trust. When she finally reached the senior escrow officer, a woman named Ms. Alvarez, Dana's voice became pure steel. "This is Dana Pike, representing Lucy Collins. We are asserting a claim of ownership over the funds currently held in escrow for the transaction regarding 412 Elm Street. My client can demonstrate that the earnest money deposit was obtained via unauthorized wire transfer from her personal savings account. We are demanding that you freeze the escrow immediately pending a civil action for conversion." There was a silence on the other end. Then the sound of frantic typing. "Ms. Pike, Ms." Alvarez said, her voice tight. "We received a fraud alert from the lender yesterday. Are you saying the deposit is also compromised? The entire transaction is fruit of the poisonous tree." Dana said, "If you disperse those funds or facilitate this closing, we will name Seabridge Title as a defendant in the recovery suit. I will flag the file immediately." "Ms." Alvarez said, "We are not closing this today." Dana hung up. She looked at me and smiled. "It is done. The money is frozen. Megan cannot use it. The seller cannot take it. It is stuck in purgatory." The fallout was immediate. By noon, my phone was vibrating so constantly it walked itself across my desk at work. I turned it over. 19 missed calls. Megan, Elaine, Tyler, even my father. I did not answer. I needed the silence to think. I needed to prepare for the second phase of the plan. But the silence did not last. At 2 p.m, the receptionist at Ridgeway Systems pinged me on the internal chat. "Your sister is here. She says it is a medical emergency." I sighed. Of course she did. Megan knew that was the one thing that would bypass the corporate gatekeepers. I walked out to the lobby. Megan was pacing by the glass doors. She was not the disheveled wreck she had been the night before. She was dressed in a sharp blazer and jeans, her hair pulled back in a sleek ponytail. She was wearing her crisis manager costume. When she saw me, she rushed forward, her heels clacking on the tile. "Lucy, we need to talk," she said. "Now. I am at work." "Megan, it is about the house," she said, lowering her voice but keeping the intensity high. "The seller's agent just called Sienna. They are threatening to walk. They said the title company flagged the deposit. Imagine that." I said. Megan grabbed my arm. Her grip was tight. Desperate. "Stop it. Lucy, just stop. I have a solution." She pulled a folded piece of paper from her purse. "I talked to Sienna. She said rapidly, 'We can fix this. You just need to sign this. It is a private agreement. It says the $8,000 was a gift for the house, and that I agree to repay you $10,000 within 12 months. See? I am giving you interest. $2,000 profit." I looked at the paper. It was typed on plain white paper. It was simplistic, almost childish in its legal phrasing. "Megan," I said, "this is a gift letter. It is an agreement," she hissed. "If you sign this, I can email it to the title company. They will lift the freeze. Harborgate will see the dispute is resolved. We can close on Monday, and you get your money back plus interest. Everyone wins." I looked at my sister. She really believed this. She believed that if she just shuffled enough paper, the reality of her crime would disappear. "If I sign this," I said, "I am admitting that I gave you the money. I am admitting that the fraud report I filed was false." "So what?" she asked. "Who cares?" "The police care." I said, "The bank fraud investigator cares." "If I sign this, Megan, I become your accomplice. I become a liar. I am not asking you to lie," she cried, her voice rising, drawing stares from the receptionist. "I am asking you to help me save my home." "It is not your home," I said. "It never was." I pulled my arm free from her grip. "I am not signing it." Megan's face crumbled. The mask of the capable problem solver vanished, revealing the terrified child beneath. "The seller gave us 24 hours, she whispered. "If the title issue is not cleared by tomorrow at noon, they are terminating the contract. They have a cash backup offer. Then you better start packing." I said. I turned to walk back into the office. "Tyler took out a bridge loan," she blurted out. I stopped. I turned back. "What? Tyler?" she said, tears leaking from her eyes. "He took out a bridge loan from a hard money lender to cover the rest of the closing costs. He used his business as collateral. If we do not close, he still owes the fees. The interest is 40%. Lucy, if we lose this house, he goes bankrupt." I stared at her. The hole was deeper than I thought. "How did he get a loan?" I asked. "His business makes no money." He fluffed the invoices," Megan admitted, looking down at her shoes. "He showed them invoices for contracts that have not paid out yet." "Forged invoices," I corrected. "He did it for us," Megan cried. "No," I said. "He did it because he is a con artist, and you are his mark." I walked back through the security doors. I did not feel pity. I felt a cold, clarifying anger. They had built an entire life on lies, and they expected me to be the mortar that held the bricks together. I called Dana from the stairwell. "Tyler has a bridge loan based on fraudulent invoices." I said, "The whole thing is a house of cards." "Excellent," Dana said. "That is more leverage. If Tyler is exposed, he goes to prison for loan fraud. He will be desperate to settle." "What do we do?" I asked. "We make the offer," Dana said. "We tell them exactly what the price of your silence is." The meeting happened at 5 o'clock at Dana's office. Megan refused to come, claiming she was too sick with stress. Tyler refused to come because he was afraid of me. So they sent my mother. Elaine sat in the leather chair opposite Dana's desk. She looked small. She was clutching her purse with both hands, her knuckles white. I sat next to Dana. I did not look at my mother. I looked at the wall, where a framed diploma hung slightly crooked. "Mrs. Collins," Dana began, her voice calm and professional. "We are here to discuss a resolution to the civil claims Lucy has against Megan and Tyler." "We just want peace," Elaine said, her voice trembling. "We just want Lucy to drop this nonsense so Megan can close. The seller is going to cancel the contract tomorrow at noon. That is going to happen regardless," Dana said. "The loan is suspended. The escrow is frozen. There is no closing. Mrs. Collins, the house is gone." Elaine let out a small sob. She worked so hard for it. She stole for it. I said, "I spoke for the first time." Elaine flinched. "Lucy, please, we are prepared to file a civil lawsuit for conversion, fraud, and emotional distress," Dana continued. Ignoring the interruption, "We will also cooperate fully with the criminal investigation that Harborgate is required to launch. This will likely result in felony charges for Megan and Tyler." Elaine's eyes went wide. "Felony? However," Dana said, leaning forward, "Lucy is willing to offer a settlement." Elaine looked at me, hope dawning on her face. "You will drop it? You will tell the bank it was a mistake?" "No," I said. "I will not lie for her. Here are the terms," Dana said, sliding a document across the desk. 1. Megan repays the $8,000 immediately. 2. Megan signs a sworn affidavit admitting that she accessed Lucy's accounts without authorization and forged the gift letter. 3. Tyler signs an admission regarding the laptop access and the data theft. 4. They agree to a repayment plan for legal fees incurred by Lucy. If they agree to this, Dana said, Lucy will not pursue the civil lawsuit. She will also decline to press charges personally with the police, although she cannot stop the bank's investigation. But without her active testimony, the police may prioritize other cases. Elaine stared at the document. "But the admission," she stammered. "If Megan signs this, she admits she stole." "She did steal," Dana said. "And the house?" Elaine asked. "The house is lost," Dana said firmly. "The goal now is to keep your daughter out of handcuffs." Elaine looked at me. Her eyes were filled with tears. But behind the tears, there was a spark of anger. "You are enjoying this," she said. I looked at her. I felt a profound sadness wash over me. She still didn't get it. I am not enjoying this. Mom, I said, I am surviving it. You are ruining her life, Elaine said, her voice gaining strength. Over $8,000. We could have paid you back. You are destroying the family over money. It is not about the money. I said, it is always about money with you. Elaine snapped. You calculate everything. You judge everyone. You sit in your apartment with your spreadsheets, and you judge us because we are not perfect. Megan made a mistake, a desperate mistake, and instead of helping her, you are holding a knife to her throat. I stood up. My legs felt shaky, but my voice was steady. She stole my identity. Mom, she forged my signature. She tried to saddle me with $1 million of debt, and you helped her. You told her to do it. I did what I had to do to keep the peace, Elaine shouted. And you are asking me to pay for that peace with my safety, I yelled back. The words tore out of my throat, raw and painful. You want me to risk my financial future, my credit, my reputation, just so you do not have to deal with Megan's tantrums. You are sacrificing me to keep her happy. Elaine recoiled, as if I had slapped her. I am your daughter too, I said, my voice dropping to a whisper. Why is my safety less important than her fantasy? Elaine looked down at her hands. She didn't answer. She couldn't answer. Take the deal to Megan. I said, she has until tomorrow morning. I walked out of the office. I didn't wait for my mother. I went home. I felt hollowed out. The confrontation had confirmed what I had always suspected, but never wanted to believe. In the economy of my family's love, I was the currency they spent to buy Megan's stability. I sat on my couch in the dark. At 9 o'clock, my phone buzzed. It was an alert from my bank app. Not the new one, the old one. Login attempt failed. Login attempt failed. Login attempt failed. I stared at the screen. Megan, she was desperate. She knew the seller was going to walk at noon the next day. She needed cash. Maybe she thought if she could just get the $8,000 back, she could wire it to the title company herself and claim it was a system error. Maybe she was trying to pay Tyler's bridge loan interest. She was trying to rob me again. I logged into the old account, the empty one. I watched the activity log. She had managed to reset the password using the security questions she knew the answers to. My first pet, my mother's maiden name. She had bypassed the two-factor authentication because she likely still had access to my old email on a device she hadn't logged out of. She was in. I imagined her sitting at her computer, her heart racing, thinking she had found a lifeline. I imagined her clicking on accounts. I imagined the moment she saw the balance. Checking. Zeros hand. Savings. Zeros hazards. I sat there in the dark, watching the screen. 5 minutes later, my phone rang. It was Megan. I didn't answer. She called again, then she sent a text. You stole it back. I laughed. A dry, humorless sound in the empty apartment. I didn't steal it back. Megan, I said to the empty room, I just moved it out of reach. I slept fitfully that night. I dreamed of houses made of paper, dissolving in the rain. Saturday morning arrived with the inevitability of a funeral. Noon came. I was sitting at my kitchen table, drinking coffee. When the email notification arrived, Dana had been copied on the correspondence from the title company. Subject: Cancellation of contract, 412 Elm Street. I opened the attachment. It was a formal letter from the seller's attorney to the title company and Harborgate Lending, due to the buyer's failure to resolve title and funding contingencies within the cured period, and in light of the allegations of fraudulent funding sources, the seller hereby exercises their right to terminate the purchase agreement immediately. The seller demands the release of all earnest money deposits as liquidated damages. It was over. The house was gone. 10 minutes later, I heard the scream. It wasn't a physical scream. It was a digital one. My phone exploded with notifications. Megan had gone live on social media. I didn't want to watch it, but I had to know the blast radius. I opened the app. Megan was sitting in her car. She was crying. Ugly, heaving sobs. She took it. She screamed into the camera, "My own sister!" She was jealous because I was finally happy. She called the bank and told them lies. She froze my money. She stole my life. The comments were scrolling by. OMG, that is awful. What a snake. Family betrayal is the worst. Stay strong, babe. She was spinning the narrative. She was the victim. I was the monster. I watched for a minute, feeling a strange detachment. She was performing. Even in her ruin, she was performing. She wasn't mourning the house. She was mourning the audience she had promised a show to. I closed the app. I picked up the folder Dana had given me. Inside was the certified check I had drawn from my new account. $33,000. My life savings. Megan had lost the house. The seller had walked. The property was now back on the market, tainted by a failed closing, labeled as a distress transaction. The seller was angry. They wanted a quick sale. They didn't want to go back to listing it and waiting another 30 days. They wanted a sure thing. I wasn't Megan. I didn't have a fake job. I didn't have forged gift letters. I had cash. I had an 800 credit score. I had a pre-approval letter from my new credit union that was solid as bedrock. I picked up my phone and called Dana. Did they cancel? I asked. They canceled, Dana said. The seller is furious. They are threatening to sue Megan for the difference if they sell it for less later. Call the seller's agent. I said. What? Dana asked. Call the seller's agent. I repeated. Tell them you represent a buyer who can close in 10 days. Cash down payment, no contingencies, solid financing. Lucy, Dana said, her voice cautious. Are you sure? This is biblical. I looked at the empty wall of my apartment. I looked at the rain streak on the window. Megan wanted that house because it made her look like someone she wasn't. I said, I want it because it is a good investment, and because my money is already sitting in the escrow account. But the seller is trying to keep that money, Dana warned. Tell the seller that if they accept my offer, I will release the claim on the $8,000 and apply it to the purchase price. I said, I will solve their legal problem and their sales problem in one signature. Dana was silent for a moment. Then she laughed, a low, appreciative sound. That is cold. Lucy, it is business. I said, make the offer. Dana. I hung up. I walked to the window and looked out at the city. Somewhere out there, Megan was screaming at her phone, telling the world that I had stolen her dream. She was wrong. I hadn't stolen her dream. I had just woken up. The fallout from the canceled closing was not the end of the war. It was merely the end of the first battle. I thought that by stopping the fraud, I had forced my family to face reality. I was wrong. I had underestimated the sheer gravitational pull of their denial. On Monday morning, 3 days after the seller terminated the contract, I received a call from my father. This in itself was terrifying. Robert Collins never called during the day. He was a creature of routine, a man who believed that telephone calls were for emergencies only. Lucy. His voice was thin, reedy, vibrating with a stress I had never heard before. Your mother is at the bank. With Megan? My stomach dropped. Which bank? Dad? The one on 4th Street, he said. I drove to the bank on 4th Street like a woman fleeing a fire. I parked the car on the curb, ignoring the red zone, and ran inside. I found them in a glass-walled office near the back. My mother was sitting across from a loan officer, a pen hovering over a stack of documents. Megan was sitting next to her, her face swollen but her eyes bright with a predatory intensity. She was whispering in Elaine's ear, pointing at the signature line. I burst into the office. The loan officer looked up, startled. Do not sign that, I shouted. Elaine jumped. The pen clattered onto the desk. Megan spun around, her face twisting into a mask of pure hatred. Get out! Megan screamed. You have done enough damage. I ignored her. I looked at my mother. Mom, look at me. If you sign that paper, you are putting your home, the house you and Dad worked 40 years for, at risk. You are giving the money to a deal that is already dead. The seller has walked, Mom. The escrow is frozen because it contains stolen funds. Throwing more money at this will not fix it. It will just mean that when Megan defaults, and she will default. The bank will take your house too. Elaine looked at me, then at Megan. She looked trapped. A small animal caught between two predators. But we have to try. Elaine whimpered. She needs a home. Lucy, she needs to grow up, I said, stepping closer. She forged my signature. She committed a crime, and now she is manipulating you into financial suicide to cover her tracks. This is not love. Mom, this is a hostage situation. Megan stood up. She was shaking. You are just trying to ruin me because you are bitter, she yelled. You want me to be miserable like you. Mom, sign the papers. Do not listen to her. She is toxic. The loan officer looked uncomfortable. Mrs. Collins, if there is a family dispute regarding the purpose of these funds— There is no dispute, Megan snapped. There is a dispute, I said firmly. My sister is currently under investigation for mortgage fraud, involving the very property she intends to purchase with these funds. If you issue this loan, you are knowingly facilitating a high-risk transaction. The loan officer pulled the papers back. I think we need to pause this application. Mrs. Collins. Megan let out a primal scream. She swiped her arm across the desk, sending a cup of pens flying. I hate you, she screamed at me. I hate you. That is when the door opened again. My father stood there, Robert Collins, the man who had spent his life hiding behind his newspaper, the man who had let my mother steer the ship into the rocks time and time again. He looked tired. He was wearing his gardening jacket. Robert? Elaine whispered. He walked into the room. He didn't look at me. He didn't look at Megan. He looked at his wife. Get up, Elaine, he said. But Rob, Megan needs— We are not signing anything, Robert said. His voice was not loud, but it had a weight I had never heard before. Dad, Megan cried, switching instantly to her little girl voice. Please, I just need a chance. No, Robert said. He looked at her then. I have been afraid of you for 20 years. Megan, he said. The room went silent. Even Megan looked shocked. I have been afraid of your temper, Robert continued, his voice steady but sad. I have been afraid of your drama. I have been afraid that if we did not give you what you wanted, you would explode. You would hurt yourself, or you would hurt us. So we paid. We paid for the cars. We paid for the apartments. We paid for the mistakes. We paid for peace. He took a breath. But it was not peace, Robert said. It was ransom. We have been paying you ransom to leave us alone, and I am done. I am not losing my house because I am too much of a coward to say no to my own daughter. He reached out his hand to Elaine. Come home. Elaine. Elaine looked at Megan, who was standing there with her mouth open, the shock rendering her silent for the first time in her life. Then she looked at Robert. She stood up. She took his hand. They walked out of the bank. I stood there with Megan. She looked at me, her eyes wild, searching for a way to spin this, a way to win. This is not over, she hissed. It is over. Megan, I said, go home. I left her there, surrounded by scattered pens and the ruins of her entitlement. I went back to Dana Pike's office. I felt drained, but lighter. My father had finally broken the cycle, but the legal machinery I had started was still grinding forward. Dana was in a good mood. She had a file open on her desk. We have movement, she said. What kind? I asked. The seller is panicking. Dana said, they have a property that is tied up in a legal knot. They cannot sell it to anyone else until the escrow dispute is resolved. They want to release the earnest money, your $8,000, back to the buyer just to clear the title. But the buyer is Megan. I said, if they release it to her, she keeps my money. Exactly, Dana said. Which is why I filed an emergency petition this morning. We are arguing that since the funds are proven to be proceeds of theft, they must be returned directly to the source, you, and we are asking for damages. She handed me a document. But here is the real kill shot. She said, since Megan commingled your funds with her own potential assets, we are filing a prejudgment lien against any future property she attempts to buy within the county for the next 10 years. I stared at her. You can do that? If we can prove a pattern of financial abuse? Yes, Dana said. It effectively radioactive tags her credit. No title company will insure a transaction with her name on it until she settles with you. My phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number. Lucy, this is Sienna Hart. The realtor. I need to speak with you. Off the record. I showed the phone to Dana. Take the call. Dana said, but record it. I put the phone on speaker and hit record on my other device. This is Lucy. Lucy, hi. Sienna said. She sounded breathless, like she was walking fast. Look, I just got off the phone with the Harborgate fraud investigator. They are asking a lot of questions about the source of funds. I am sure they are. I said, listen. Sienna said, I am not going down for this. I have a license to protect. Megan told me that money was a gift. She swore to me it was family money. That is not true. Sienna, I said, I have the texts where she told you she was borrowing it and fixing the paperwork later. There was a silence on the line, a long, heavy pause. You have those? Sienna asked. I do not. I lied. But the investigator will when they subpoena your phone records. Sienna exhaled a shaky breath. Okay, look, I have screenshots. Texts where she explicitly says she's going to forge your signature on the gift letter. She sent me a draft of it and asked if the handwriting looked convincing. I looked at Dana. Dana's eyes widened. She gave me a thumbs up. If you send me those screenshots, Sienna, I said, I will make sure the investigator knows you cooperated. I cannot promise you immunity, but it will look a lot better than obstruction. I am sending them now. Sienna said. The images pinged into my inbox 10 seconds later. There it was, in black and white. Megan. Does this look like her signature? I practiced it like 50 times. Sienna. A little loopier on the L, but it will pass. That is conspiracy, Dana whispered. Sienna just handed us her own head on a platter to save her neck. An hour later, the second domino fell. Tyler Vance called Dana's office. He didn't want to talk to me. He wanted to talk to the lawyer. He is ready to deal, Dana said, covering the mouthpiece. He says he can prove Megan forced him to hack your laptop. Forced him? I scoffed. He is a grown man. He says she threatened to break up with him and report his business for tax fraud if he didn't help her. Dana said, he says she is the mastermind. He is just the technician. Let him talk. I said, Tyler sent over a voice memo he had saved. It was a recording of an argument between him and Megan. Megan's voice was shrill, unmistakable. I do not care how you do it. Tyler, just get into her banking app. She is my sister. She owes me this. If you cannot do one simple thing for our future, then what good are you? Do I need to find a man who can actually provide? It was pathetic. It was incriminating. It was perfect. They were turning on each other. The rats were not just fleeing the ship. They were eating each other to survive the swim. By Wednesday, the victory was complete. But it felt abstract. I had the evidence. I had the confession. I had the moral high ground. But I was still sitting in my apartment, $33,000 richer from my savings, but emotionally bankrupt. I checked the real estate listings. It was a habit I couldn't break. I searched for 412 Elm Street. The status had changed. Back on market, but the price had dropped. It had been listed at $930,000. Now, it was listed at $850,000. I stared at the number. The listing description had changed too. Motivated seller, cash offers preferred, quick close required. The house was stigmatized. It had fallen out of contract under suspicious circumstances. The market smelled blood. Potential buyers would wonder what was wrong with the foundation, or the roof, or the title. They would stay away. But I knew what was wrong with it. Nothing was wrong with the house. The only rot was the person who had tried to buy it. I closed my laptop. I opened it again. I called Dana. I want to make an offer. I said, Lucy, we have been over this. Dana sighed. You want to buy the house? Yes. I said, okay. The seller is desperate, but you need to be clean. No games. I have the cash from my new account for the down payment. I said, I have a pre-approval from the credit union. I can close in 14 days. Dana paused. If you do this, she said, you know what it means. You are not just buying a house. You are erasing her. You are stepping into the life she tried to steal. and you are wearing it. I know. I said, do it. We submitted the offer on Thursday. We offered $840,000, $10,000 under the new asking price. We included a letter, not a sob story, but a financial resume, proof of funds, proof of income, a guarantee of a smooth closing, and we included one specific condition: the release of the disputed $8,000 earnest money deposit to the seller as part of the purchase price, resolving the legal standoff. The seller accepted in 3 hours. The next 2 weeks were a blur of efficiency. I went through the inspections. I walked through the empty rooms. I smelled the cedar closet. I touched the quartz countertops. Real quartz. Not the cheap stuff Megan would have pretended was marble. The house was solid. It had good bones. It was quiet. I signed the papers on a rainy Tuesday. My hand did not shake. I signed Lucy Ann Collins. My real name. My real signature. The title officer smiled at me. Congratulations, Ms. Collins. You are a homeowner. I took the keys. They were heavy, brass, cold. I drove to the house. I parked in the driveway. It was mine. I didn't move in immediately. I needed to do one last thing. I sent a text to the family group chat. I have news. Meet me at 412 Elm Street at 6 p.m. I didn't say what it was. I knew they would come. Curiosity is a powerful force, even stronger than shame. I arrived early. I unlocked the front door. I turned on the lights in the entryway. I stood in the center of the living room, listening to the rain on the roof. At 6 o'clock, cars pulled up. My parents arrived first. They looked wary, tired. They walked up the path holding hands, looking at the house like it was a haunted monument. Then Megan arrived. She was driving Tyler's car. Tyler was not with her. She stormed up the walkway, her face set in a scowl. "What is this, Lucy?" she demanded as she walked through the open door. "Why are we here? Did you come to gloat? Is this your victory lap?" She looked around the empty living room. "I cannot believe you made us come here," she spat. "This is cruel. This is my house. You know this is my house. It is not your house. Megan," I said. I pulled the deed out of my purse. It was a crisp, blue-backed document. I held it up. "It is mine." Megan froze. She stared at the paper. She blinked, trying to process the words. "What?" she whispered. "I bought it." I said, "I closed today. The deed is recorded in my name. Lucy Collins. Sole owner." Megan's face went white, then red. "You bought my house?" she screamed. "I bought a house that was for sale," I said calmly. "A house that was back on the market because the previous buyer committed fraud and lost her financing. I used my own money. I used my own credit. I used the savings you tried to steal." "No!" she shrieked. "You cannot do that. That is illegal. That is incestuous. Mom, Dad, tell her she cannot do this." Elaine was staring at me. Her hand was covering her mouth. Robert was looking at the floor, shaking his head slowly. "It is done, Elaine," Robert said softly. "It is her house." Megan flew at me. She didn't hit me, but she got close enough that I could feel the heat radiating off her skin. "You stole my life!" she screamed, spittle flying from her lips. "You have always been jealous of me. You saw me happy and you couldn't stand it. You stole my house. You stole my future." I didn't flinch. I stood my ground, clutching the deed. "I didn't steal your life, Megan," I said, my voice cutting through her screams. I reclaimed mine. I stepped forward, forcing her to take a step back. "You tried to build a life on my silence," I said. "You thought that because I was quiet, I was weak. You thought that because I was responsible, I was a resource you could mine until I was empty. You thought you could take my money, my name, and my credit, and I would just let you do it because I wanted to keep the peace." I looked at my parents. "But peace purchased with fraud is not peace," I said. "It is just a pause before the explosion." I turned back to Megan. "I did not break the law to get this house. I did not lie to get this house. I worked for 10 years to get this house. And now, it is mine." Megan looked around the room frantically, as if searching for a loophole, a trick, a way to undo reality. "Get out," she whispered. "Get out of my house." I looked at her. Get off my porch, I said. Megan stared at me. She looked at our parents. They didn't move to comfort her. They stood there, witnesses to the wreck she had caused. She let out a sound that was half sob, half growl. She turned and ran out the door. We heard her car engine roar, tires spinning on the wet pavement as she peeled away. Silence settled back into the room. Elaine looked at me. Her eyes were sad, but there was something else there too. Respect? Fear? I didn't care anymore. I am happy for you. Lucy, Robert said quietly. It is a good house. Thank you. Dad, I said. They left a few minutes later. They didn't ask for a tour. They knew they weren't welcome yet. Maybe they never would be. I locked the door. I turned off the entryway light. I walked into the kitchen. The streetlights outside cast long shadows across the floor. I was alone. The family was fractured. Megan was likely driving around the city, screaming into the void. Tyler was facing an indictment. My parents were grappling with the realization that their enabling had birthed a monster. I stood in the center of the dark kitchen. It was quiet. For years. I had thought that justice and peace were enemies. I thought I had to choose. But as I stood there, listening to the hum of the refrigerator that I owned, in the house that I paid for, I realized I was wrong. Justice wasn't the opposite of peace. Justice was the foundation of it. I took a deep breath. The air smelled of rain and fresh paint. It smelled like home. Thank you for listening to My Sister Stole $8,000 from Me. I took back her $930,000 dream home. This was a story about boundaries, betrayal, and the high cost of silence. I would love to hear from you. Please leave a comment below telling me where you are listening from. I am always amazed to see how far these stories travel. And if you enjoyed this story, please subscribe to Revenge Stories and share your thoughts in English. Do you think Lucy went too far? Or was it the perfect payback? Let me know in the comments.